Hello. It is Walker on Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I'm a walker. Little bit different for me now. When David is in heaven, we used to sing, "How beautiful heaven must be." But I'm sure now David is saying, "How really beautiful heaven is. We couldn't even imagine." And so tonight, I am going to dip into some of his notes. He said, "Don't you ever stop doing those programs." And I told him, "Honey, you've left me enough material. I'll have to live to be 120 before I get through it all." And tonight I'm going to share with you 7 things that will be with you when you take your last trip. And that, of course, is to heaven. And David traveled in sevens. So here we go. This is what will matter at the end of your life. Number 1, God's will. In Matthew 6 and 10, we hear the words, "Not my will, but thine be done." And then number 2, God's word. That's what will matter. In Matthew 24:35, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. So it is God's will, God's word, and then number 3, God's law. In Psalm 19:7, the law of the Lord is perfect. And then we'll go to God's way. God's way in Isaiah 55 and 9. So my ways are above your ways. And then we go to God's plan. And our God, is involved in all of your plans. That's pretty exciting news. And then God's purpose. And that should be a comfort to us, that God has a reason for us and you being here. And hopefully we don't let life completely slip by before we recognize what that purpose is. And then number 7, which is so important at the end of our life, God's Son will be there. Oh, and life really is all about Jesus. All about Jesus. And John 3:16 has the whole plan. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So here we are. We have at the end, what do we have? We have God's will, God's word, God's law, God's way, God's plan, God's purpose, and most of all, God's Son, because in the end, it's really all about Jesus. Someone asked me how I am. I'm trusting. Hard in pieces, but I'm trusting. So my advice is hold on, enjoy the ride. The best is just ahead. Bye-bye for now.